Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're going to be a bit creeped out after watching this video. Strawberry milk with a side of mercury. This happened a long time ago when I was younger and I have a really bad memory. This is just me recounting the memory to the best of my ability and what I was told. I also want to preface the story that this story takes place somewhere in Indonesia where it's more commonplace to have maids in your household. When I was younger I had a strong relationship with my extended family. To me, it was normal to be close with your extended family, and when I mean extended, I don't even know how they're related to me. In particular, I was close with my grandaunt's family, calling her grandaunt Sheila, whose daughters and in-laws were like my big sisters. Being the eldest child, I liked being babied by them since I was always expected to be the big sister for my little brother. This is important later. I was maybe 11 years old, or younger. Neither my parents or I could remember exactly when it happened. I just want to say, as a kid, I loved milk. I still do, though I tend to stick with skim milk now. When I was younger, I had a favourite local brand that had the usual strawberry flavour. The brand was called Ultra Milk. It was always cool that I was drinking something pink. Unbeknownst to my parents, a gift basket had showed up to our doorsteps and the maid had taken in the gift, thinking it was a present from one of my mother's friends. My parents had even seen the gift basket and didn't think much of it. It was full of fruit, sweets, etc. The usual kind you'd send to someone maybe on a special occasion. It should have been weird that there wasn't a special occasion, but another weird part was that usually gift baskets had a card or something to indicate where it had come from, but there was no indication to who it came from. But the maids had overlooked it and my parents didn't notice at the time. They had assumed the head maid had checked it through. She didn't. In the gift basket there was my favourite tiny carton of my favourite milk, even strawberry flavoured. I had lessons with a tutor and oftentimes the maid accompanying me to the lesson would bring me snacks or food since the tutoring would take a few hours. I was at my tutor's house and she was teaching me about the homework I got today when I got thirsty and I got my carton of milk to take a sip out of it. I was ready to take a sip of the extremely sweet, artificially flavoured strawberry milky goodness, but something was wrong. It didn't taste right. I don't remember what it did taste like, but I knew that it was wrong. I remember describing to my parents that it felt like I licked the bottom of a foot of a metal framed chair I had in my room at my desk. It just tasted awful. Thinking that maybe it was spoiled, my mum had warned me about drinking spoiled milk and how it can really upset your stomach. I immediately, without swallowing, grabbed some tissues at the table and spat out the mouthful into the tissue and was surprised to see a sort of weird metallic beads in it. Like metal, but it was liquid. I have never seen anything like it and I was confused. It looked a lot like this. My tutor was even more confused and horrified that I just spat out a strange metallic substance from my mouth. I didn't really understand what was going on, but my tutor asked to take the carton of milk where I tried to drink from and told me to just continue working while she went to investigate. Apparently my tutor and her head maid went outside and poured a bit of the milk into a tissue and there was more of this weird metal liquid in there. She asked me if I drank any of it, and I told her that maybe I took a sip and swallowed before I realised that something was bad in there. After that, my tutor apparently called my mum and told her that I had possibly been poisoned. I went home without finishing my lesson, becoming slightly concerned that maybe something was wrong. I went home, and I don't really remember what happened after that. There wasn't a poison centre in my country and no emergency services that would really respond, third world country and all that, so my parents took me to a doctor to have blood tests. I remember being pulled out of school. My mum wanted me to stay home from school the next few days, which was great for me. No one told me the severity of the situation, and my mum just told me that she wanted me to chill at home for a while. No school? I get to have fun? No way. So I did. I stayed home and watched Avatar: The Last Airbender on DVD while my parents were fretting over the idea that I might have been poisoned by mercury. The gift basket, which had already been taken apart and stored to eat for later, it was all reassembled and my parents tried to go with this to the police, but they couldn't really do anything since we literally had no leads on where this gift basket came from since it had no card and the police really couldn't care less about our situation. Again, third world country. I don't really know what happened other than I was pretty cool with staying home and playing. My life at home wasn't perfect, got some issues with my parents, but they were really nice to me during this time, so I enjoyed it a lot since I didn't really understand. I think my parents kept a lot of things from me to keep me from getting scared. My parents even took me overseas to Singapore, even taking the liquid found in the carton with them in a tin or whatever to show the doctors there, where I got tested some more and didn't seem to have any signs of poisoning. I didn't swallow enough of it. I'm not sure if it really was mercury, no one has ever told me. But at the end of the day, everyone was glad that I didn't drink enough of it to get affected by whatever it is. Now to get into the suspect part. My parents later told me that they had a sneaking suspicion it was possible that Grandaunt Sheila was the one who tried to poison me. I didn't know this at the time, But around the time of this incident, Grandaunt Sheila was found to have stolen gold and jewellery from my parents' store for years, worth thousands. My parents were furious, wanted to report her to the authorities, but my grandma, her sister, loved her too much, and instead just cut contact with her. Since then, Grandaunt Sheila has seemed to want to enact vengeance over being caught and has been trying to get back at us. My mum had warned me that I couldn't play with the big sisters, Grandaunt Sheila's daughters, anymore since they did something very bad, and to never get into a car with them if they showed up at the school, but it didn't click in my mind until now. Thinking back, Grandaunt Sheila was close enough to me to know that I loved drinking milk and maybe tried to hurt my family, even if it meant hurting her grannies, not sure what I would be to her. We could never confirm if it was her, but Grandaunt Sheila has continued to be a thorn in my family side for years now, though my parents have learned a lesson and ensured that whenever we received a gift basket, there had to be a name on it. My grandmother doesn't believe her sister did it though, but my parents firmly believe she was responsible. But we had no proof, other than our horrible character. We've received weird gifts like black seeds and hair that was supposedly some sort of witchcraft thing. Witchcraft and sorcery is a popular thing in Indonesia, believe it or not. We assumed that this was all from Grandaunt Sheila, who still lived in the same city as us. It only made sense. My parents never bought me the Ultra Milk brand again, but I was okay with that, since that moment spoiled the Ultra Milk brand to me. I was reminded of this story while drinking strawberry milk the other day. Different brand. I'm no longer living in Indonesia, not the same country as Grandaunt Sheila. Even so. To Grandaunt Sheila, or whoever was the one who tried to spike a carton of strawberry milk to poison an 11-year-old girl, let's not meet. So, if the Grandaunt Sheila was caught stealing and was confronted by OP's parents, why would Sheila then turn on OP and try and poison her? I wonder how much of the other food in the gift basket was contaminated too. Was she trying to poison the entire family? It also seems absolutely crazy to me that this isn't something that police would even consider investigating. And where would you get mercury from? I have so many questions. Are you still there? I was a latchkey kid before they coined the term. Single parent home, television dinners, way too much time on the Commodore 64. A combination of depression and loneliness had turned me into the 12-year-old who cried wolf. I would call my mum, saying I was sick or that I was locked out. Anything to make her come home. The problem metastasized, and soon all the parents from our church and PTA were wise to my antics. No one would even take my call. A couple of days before my 13th birthday, I was microwaving some dinner when the phone rang. I picked it up, and a voice, sounded like a man doing all falsetto of a little girl, said, "Crap." Then there was the sound of touch-tone numbers as he quickly hung up. About 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. I picked it up and there was this heavy sigh. The same falsetto voice came next. "Are you still there? He should have been there by now." I asked who it was. The guy ignored me. "You just stay put. He's gonna be there any time now." More touch-tone numbers, like he was slamming the phone down but missing. Then dial tone. I was pretty spooked, but also in a lot of trouble with my mum for embarrassing her with the church crowd. It was getting dark. I locked the doors and windows, slapped the 2-4 in the slider and did my best not to think about it. An hour later, fully dark outside now, the phone rang again. I ignored it, but it kept ringing. No answering machine, it could go on all night. I finally picked it up. "He's on your street," this was crowed out. The guy with the weird voice was breathing like he'd run a mile. "Right down your street." I hung up. I was terrified. I left the phone off the cradle and went around checking the doors and windows. When I was in the back of the house, I saw a headlight. Someone was in the driveway. My mum wasn't due home for another 2 hours. I dropped and crawled over to the front windows and peered over the windowsill. There was a man finishing a cigarette in an old station wagon in our driveway. The car was idling. He tossed the butt, coughed, and pulled back into the street, going back the way he had come. That was the end of it. I huddled in a corner until my mum came home and gave her a big hug. Weird falsetto phone guy? Let's not meet. So I read more into the comments of this story, and OP gave some speculation that because they were part of a Mormon church, the elders of the church would send people to publicly shame members or scare people straight for various reasons. So OP thinks it was the church punishing them for lying. But I can't imagine how scary it must have been to receive those phone calls and then have some stranger show up in your driveway. It's actually giving me shivers up my spine, and it's given me the intense urge to go and make sure my door is locked. Predator given away by his own cough. On mobile, and my first post on Reddit. This happened when I was in the 5th or 6th grade. Our school was in walking distance of a bunch of stores, and the hub of it all was an always packed 7-Eleven. My best friend and I had decided to walk there after school one day for some snacks before going to her house. We got a bit of a late start to our walk, so we missed the mass migration of kids heading for the stores. Because of this, the journey was deserted, so we turned down the best path to the stores, the alley. We were walking and talking, joking about how the alley was actually pretty creepy when there weren't a bunch of kids around. Then we heard the cough of a grown man. We both whipped around and my friend yelled and got in a karate stance to protect herself, despite never taking karate. We see an averagely tall man, maybe in his late 40s, who had a creepy look to him. The worst part was that he was only about a foot behind us when we turned. We don't know how long he was following us, but as soon as we had turned, he got an angry and disappointed look on his face, as if he had just ruined a plan. His hands were raised as if he was going to hit us. We turned back around, white as ghosts. We walked a few more feet until there was an opening into the bank parking lot. We could hear his footsteps now, and he still sounded close. My best friend spots another friend of ours about to be driven home, and we rush over to her car. As soon as we got to the car, which was only a few feet away, I looked back to try and see the man. Gone. I went back to peek in the alley. Nowhere. He disappeared. We proceeded to tell our friend about what happened, and she was just as afraid as we were. We took the path close to the road for the rest of our walk. One of the creepiest parts of this whole story was there was a man in our area who had been reported for being predatory towards children. When I told my parents, we looked up the predator's description and picture. It was the exact same man my best friend and I had encountered in the alley. To this day, we're still creeped out, but also laughed at how my friend reacted with karate hands and was 100% ready to beat the hell out of this guy. I sometimes wonder if we overreacted, but then I think of what could have happened if he hadn't have coughed. Yeah, that's pretty scary. I wonder if they contacted police to let them know that the guy hangs out in the alley, or possibly outside their school waiting for the students who leave late. Okay, so that's all for r/LetsNotMeet. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord and Patreon links are in my description, and any support is greatly appreciated. And as it's Sunday, I want to say a massive thank you to my wonderful patrons. BackwardsDDog, Tyler Miller, Jen Burton, Jens Banning, Kate McCutcheon, Skyler A, Elizabeth Filmore, Two Chooks, and Stephen Arnowitt. Thank you all so much for your support. Mwah. That's for you, but keep it between us, okay? Thank you so much for watching.